Greetings to everyone present. My name is Ankit Malhotra. I'm an advocate based here in India, and I'm also a Phoenix Scholar, which was awarded to me for my LLM in International Law in SOAS University of London. I'm also co-editor of a book on international law, which was launched in the House of Lords. And I am truly grateful to be here in the presence of distinguished speakers and fellows. I apologize for not being able to be present in person due to prior commitments and also appearances in the courts here. I'd like to begin this paper by referencing what I have been working on under the tutelage of Justice A.K. Sikri during my time in his office, of which I recount favorably. Uh, to begin with, it's perhaps most important to refer that at least over the period of, say, 2010 to 2020, there have been a number of investment cases where South Asian countries have been involved, and this seems to have only risen to over, say, 600 bilateral investment treaties in 2023, as the last calculator that one could use, and many of these fall under the International Center for Settlement of Investment Disputes, or ICSID, or rather the UNCITRAL rules. The roles and the rules played by these has increased as well. And if one was to refer to the ICSID annual report of 2022, one would see that South Asian countries have accounted for approximately 15% of the total caseload. These are notably and also increasingly important, and three of these cases is something that we will touch upon in this presentation today as well. But that is not all, ladies and gentlemen, because in reference to ad hoc tribunals, such as those in the South China Sea arbitrations between Philippines and China, is also a reference point for arbitrations and the growing need of them. However, in a slightly different tone, one can also refer to the Malaysia Sulu arbitration case, which in 2022, under an ad hoc tribunal, awarded 15 billion US dollars to the heirs of the Sultan of Sulu in a dispute against Malaysia over colonial era agreements, and this decision was later annulled by the Paris Court of Appeal in 2023. The arbitrator involved in these cases faced legal consequences for overstepping his mandate. However, the story is not that bad for South Asia and also South Asian countries such as those of Singapore. Singapore, and specifically SEAC, is involved in handling significant portion of these disputes in the region. In over 2022, SEAC received a record number of 469 cases, within which 80% of the disputes involving non-Singaporean parties. This highlights the importance of a neutral venue for resolving disputes in Southeast Asia. Howsoever, the role of international investment arbitrations and ad hoc tribunals is important and engaging and is rapidly increasing, since they are instruments in managing the complex challenges and unlocking the potential opportunities in Southeast Asia is rapidly growing with its economic landscape. Therefore, to begin this discussion and also the analysis of this paper, one must refer to the Sanum Investment Limited versus Lao People's Democratic Republic, which is a prominent example of how investment arbitrations can address and mitigate the risks associated with ambiguous or conflicting treaty provisions. Sanum Investments is a Macau-based company which brought a claim against Laos under the China-Laos Bilateral Investment Treaty, alleging that the Laotian government had violated its treaty obligations by engaging in conduct that amounted to expropriation and unfair treatment of the investors' assets. More specifically, in paragraph 361 of this decision, it focused on the interpretation of the BIT's provisions, emphasizing the importance of ensuring that treaties are interpreted in a manner that uphold the legitimate expectations of investors while respecting the sovereignty of the host state. This treaty and also the investment summarizes and underscores the role of the arbitrators in providing clear and certain application of the agreements. It must also highlight and honor the obligations in a ever more complex situation driven by political circumstances. The Sanam case serves as a benchmark for how tribunals can serve the intricate balances of these investment treaties. However, FDIs, these foreign direct investments, particularly in the service sector, need the consistent application and legal interpretation for increasingly important systems. A treaty that outlines these principles, the Vienna Conventional Law of Treaties, calls that the treaties must be interpreted in good faith and in accordance with the ordinary meaning of law. This approach not only provides legal certainty for investors, but also contributes to a stable and predictable investment climate, which is essential for the continued growth of services in South Asia. Let us also consider the case of Beijing Urban Construction Group Corporate Limited versus the Republic of Yemen. Although made outside Southeast Asia, this has had a profound impact for Asian investors. That is because the case involved and resulted around the Chinese construction company which had its claim under the China-Yemen Bilateral Investment Treaty. Following expropriation and destruction of the company's assets during the conflict in Yemen, the tribunal, in paragraph 303, held that the company's assets are also protected and extended to the investors operating in highly volatile and unstable areas, affirming that such treaties are designed to provide legal safety nets in situations where the domestic legal recourse is either inadequate or unavailable. This also highlights and reinforces the importance of BITs as tools for mitigating the risk associated with international instruments. It also highlights how bilateral investment treaties can provide investors with a means of redress in instances where their investments are jeopardized by political stability or instability and conflicts and government's actions that may not align with the international legal standards. What then must one make for the implications for South Asian investors? The Beijing urban construction case perhaps has answers to this. First, it underscores the robust legal frameworks that can protect the investment when operating abroad. It can also highlight and recognize the importance for negotiations and upholding the bilateral investment treaties for comprehensive protection, including clear definitions for investment and, perhaps more importantly, equitable treatment. The case also highlights and serves as a reminder in the absence of a strong legal protection, investors may be exposed to significant risks that could undermine financial viability. But this is also particularly important where domestic courts can be perhaps perceived as influenced by the state or other powerful local interests. The availability of international arbitration as a recourse for South Asian countries and investors enhances their confidence in undertaking investment in challenging environments, thereby continuing and contributing to the region's broader economic engagement. The case is also important for Southeast Asian economies as it continues to grow and expand their businesses, seeking opportunities abroad. The protection offered by bilateral investment treaties, therefore, becomes ever more critical. This is also particularly relevant in regions like Africa and the Middle East, where Southeast Asian investors are becoming more and more attractive because of the political and legal uncertainties. Those challenges risk investment further and further. In sum, for at least the Beijing urban constructions case, it demonstrates that the protections offered by these treaties are not just theoretical. They provide real, tangible benefits and can safeguard investments against the unpredictable actions of the host state. Continuing forward, it must also be noted that the strategic importance of arbitration clauses in investment agreements can provide investors with a neutral and enforceable mechanism for resolving disputes that might arise with the host state. The case serves as a reminder to South Asian governments on the importance of a pro arbitration stance in their international economic policies. Ad hoc arbitration tribunals such as the arbitration rules further contribute to this landscape. However, continuing forward with the discussion, one must discuss and determine how the Indonesia versus Churchill Mining PLC arbitration influenced this. And this perhaps becomes most relevant in paragraphs 44-46, where it illustrates how ad hoc tribunals can effectively address the complexities of disputes involving substantial investment and state actions. You see, because the investors in said case can be denied access to the investment arbitrations based on failures to comply with due diligence requirements in relation to business relations with local partners. The tribunal in said case found that the claims were effectively based on documents forged to implement a fraud aimed at obtaining mining rights, and that such, as a consequence, were inadmissible. The tribunal also noted that neither the exit convention nor the applicable BIT contained language on the consequences of unlawful conduct by claimant or its business associates. Based on the previous jurisprudence, it nevertheless found that the general principles can exist independently of specific language to this treaty in effect, and it therefore concluded that claims arising from such rise are based on fraud or forgery are therefore inadmissible and a matter of international public policy. The case therefore shows that under international investment law, investors can be held accountable for their own behavior and their associates. And if state parties want to ensure responsibility of investors and their behavior, it will also be the best choice to make in the treaty's text itself. Also, the tribunal categorized that investors caught in fraud are a matter of public policy and also can be arising out of a claim that is based on the rights of fraud, rights against fraud and forgery. This essentially means that there will be consequences if the right itself is tainted by fraud, here the mining license, for instance, but fraud committed during the operation of the investment would likely have a different or no consequence in arbitrary proceedings, leaving irresponsible behavior without consequences. Now, knowing that time is short, I do want to reflect on some key statistics as I did in the beginning. Since the WTO organization has provided an account, it is perhaps most important to refer to its accounts of 2022, where it notes that 50% of the South Asian regions reflects a critical role in driving overall economic growth. It also shows that the economic significance is further evidenced by the region's strategic efforts to enhance its competitiveness in global sectors and efficiencies of services. The ASEAN Economic Community, which aims to integrate regional markets and eliminate barriers to trade in services. The rapid expansion of trade services has also offered a multiplier effect on the sectors of the economy. For instance, the growth of digital services has facilitated the development of e-commerce, fintech, and logistics industries, thereby creating new economic opportunities and contributing to the region's overall economic reliance. Insofar as the drivers of growth are concerned, they also help in technological advancements and regional integration. Digital transformation has revolutionized the services sector, particularly in countries like Singapore and Malaysia, where digital services amount to a significant share of exports. Technological advancements have also played a critical role in enhancing the region's competitiveness in the service sector. Innovations in artificial intelligence, blockchain, and also big data analytics have enabled Southeast Asian countries to be much more business effective and much more sophisticated in terms of customized services. Regional integration efforts such as the ASEAN framework for services, as I had referred above, also references and helps in further acceleration of growth by reducing regulatory barriers by promoting free movement of services across borders. Challenges, however, remain and are increasing ever so. Regulatory complexities, including the fragmented legal frameworks of countries, inconsistent enforcement of regulations, and varying levels of transparency, pose substantial risks to investors and services in providing uniform services. These tensions grow when are multiplied by geopolitical tensions, specifically in the South China Sea. The importance of strategic awareness across major trade routes cannot be overstated. Ongoing territorial disputes also threaten to disrupt trade flows and destabilize the broader economic growth and goals. In conclusion, while Southeast Asia's services and trade is poised for continued growth for addressing regulatory and geopolitical challenges that threaten this growth is essential. International investment arbitrations and ad hoc tribunals will continue to play the role in ensuring that the region can navigate its complexities and capitalize on its opportunities, thereby sustaining its economic momentum in the global arena. With those words, knowing the 15 minutes are now up, I'd like to thank the organizers once again, and I do sincerely apologize for not being there in person. Thank you.